Yep, let me go ahead and start to show my screen again. You want me to go ahead and start broadcast?
Ready.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
My name is Randy Roberts of Engineering CAD Systems Office in Tallahassee, Florida. Work for FDOT, and welcome to this morning's webinar on innovations in digital workflows. We have a special guest and topic this morning. Michael Calkins is a senior account specialist at Bluebeam Software and is located in Chicago, and he will be doing this webinar for us. This webinar will be recorded and posted for you to re-review the material. A link is provided to our ECSO posted webinar page where this recording will reside, and we will be answering questions as they come in. So if you have any questions, just ask away. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael Calkins and take it away.
Great. Well, thank you. I want to thank everyone who was involved in making this happen, inviting me to present today. We have been building a relationship with Florida DOT over the last few months, and I know many of you are probably using Revu already, but many of you may not be, so I'm happy to be here and give you a quick introduction to what Revu really is all about and what the company Bluebeam is. So this is innovations in digital workflows. We're going to be talking about basically some of the uses, some of the ways that Revu can play into your current workflows. We're going to be taking a look at how we can use Revu to digitize your workflows, essentially. Again, my name is Michael Calkins. I am based in the Chicago office for Bluebeam. That is my email address, mcalkins@bluebeam.com. I encourage any of you to jot that down. I'll put it up at the end again. If you have any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to me directly. You can also funnel those through the various channels there, and a lot of people there have my contact information. So I'm always happy to help with questions about the software, questions about the clicks or workflows, or how Revu might play a better part or a bigger part in some of your big projects. Joining me today will be one of my colleagues, James Chambers, who's a technical specialist, also the general manager of our Manchester, New Hampshire office. And he will be helping to answer questions through the questions panel. A little bit about Bluebeam. Bluebeam develops smart, simple PDF solutions that take project workflows digital. We are based in Pasadena, California, but have offices in San Diego, Chicago, New Hampshire, Toronto, as well as in Stockholm, Sweden. Growing rapidly, so you might be hearing a lot about us of late. So what we're actually going to be taking a look at today, though, is our flagship product called Revu. Revu itself is a PDF creation, editing, markup, and collaboration tool. And we're going to really be looking at specific parts for improving collaboration. So a little bit about the company, though. We are currently used by about 74% of the top U.S. contractors, about 72% of the top U.S. design build firms, 64% of U.S. design firms, 58% of the top international design firms, and around 48% of the top U.S. specialty contractors. And these numbers are growing quickly. I would think these are probably somewhat low already. So we are pretty heavily established within the AEC industry, and we're also well established with many of your colleagues at other DOTs. So I'm always happy to answer questions about that as well, how other DOTs maybe have implemented Revu in their work. So what we're trying to provide is a collaboration solution through the entire life cycle of a project, all the way from the early design phases, through bids, through actual construction, and then at closeout, and for here we have it listed as facilities management, but basically for the ongoing life of that project. Revu is going to find uses, or you will find uses for Revu across that entire life cycle. PDFs are important across that entire project life cycle now. Revu is there to make the use of those PDFs just that much easier and much more powerful. So what's the goal? Basically, what we're trying to do is to provide a better way to communicate and collaborate through the PDF file type. You see, we have various graphics that are representing different project team members, but basically what would have been done in the past over paper by literally printing hundreds of sets of paper, sending those across to around the state or around the country for various reviews. Using the PDF file type now and Revu, we can communicate and collaborate and keep everything everything focused on that PDF. Using the PDF, really, we like to use the term as the single source of truth. Now, the communication can easily be done by things like email, various file transfer utilities, but the collaboration portion of Revu is really where Revu becomes very powerful. I'm going to show you a little bit something called Bluebeam Studio that allows for collaboration over the PDF. So quickly, what we're going to be looking at in a little bit more in depth today is, again, Bluebeam Revu. We're going to take a quick look at the file access and DMS integration of Revu, just very quickly, just to show you that Revu does have the ability to connect to both SharePoint and ProjectWise. So we'll take a quick look at that. We also have a solution called Studio. Bluebeam Studio is included with every licensed copy or every desktop installation of Revu and provides for real-time collaboration, again, over that PDF file type. So we'll take a quick look at that. We'll also take a look at dynamic file setup. We have a feature called Sets, which allows you to manage large sets of documents very quickly, to navigate through them much more quickly than you can with multi-page PDFs. We'll take a look at the compare documents, and we'll also take a look at Markup Tools and the Markups List in Revu. So I mentioned earlier, Revu does have a ProjectWise integration. I apologize, these might be a little bit hard to see, but I have better graphics I can share with any of you who might need help getting this established. But within the Revu interface, through the Revu interface, you have the ability to access your files within your DMS, ProjectWise or SharePoint, and check those files out and check them back in. So directly through Revu, you can do that. There's options for opening or for checking the file out upon open, and for basically for checking out on open through hyperlinks. If you have hyperlinks within your documents that would open up another file, you can check out the file as well on open. You can also then check the file directly back into the DMS. If you don't prefer that method, or if you're really familiar or you prefer to use your ProjectWise interface itself, you do have the ability also within the ProjectWise interface to open files into Revu. And in the second, we're going to take a look at something called Studio. It's a little bit hard to see here, but in this drop-down list from within the ProjectWise Explorer, you can create what's called a Studio session. And what this lets you do is take the file from ProjectWise, check it out, and move it over to to our cloud collaboration tool called Studio Sessions, which allows for multiple attendees to view and mark up that document. When that session is complete, you can then check that file back into your DMS so that other people can get access to it. Now, the second portion then is something called, what I mentioned is Bluebeam Studio. This is that collaboration part. What Bluebeam Studio is going to allow us to do, again, is put those documents on the cloud and allow others to access them. So the major feature here, the major purpose of providing this feature is for improving collaboration. Once the document, a PDF, is loaded into Studio, if you are the creator of that session, you can invite other attendees, up to 500 attendees, to view that file or files, make their markups in those files, and then when that session is complete, you can then pull those files back down from the cloud. What's great is that you don't have to, everybody can be working on those documents at the same time. They don't have to go through and check in, check out for each single user. We're going to take a look at that in, well, I'll give you an example of, I'll actually show you Studio Sessions, and we'll touch on Studio Projects as well in action here in a little bit. All right, so why don't we go ahead and well, so then the next portion I want to talk about was the dynamic file setup. So in Revu, I'm going to switch here over to Revu. So this is the Revu interface. So as we're working in large format documents, oftentimes what will happen is that you receive a set of drawings here, and you'll notice that the entire list of, over on the Thumbnails tab, this set happens to have 17 pages. But when you take a look here, these labels here are just numbered 1 through 17. And that might not actually be very useful, because we'll notice that this particular document starts with sheet number 22. 0 to go page 1. And it would be really nice for me to be able to determine which sheet this is from the thumbnail tab. So as we're setting up these documents for use among the entire project team, you as the document control person might want to take the time to set some of these things up so that it makes it easier for everyone else to navigate these documents. In Revu, we have something called AutoMark, or in this case, when you see here in the thumbnail tab, is called Create Page Labels. And what this is going to allow me to do is to come into my document and select the region of that document. And when I hit OK, it's going to run through, and then hit OK again. It's going to go through all the pages and use that information it sees in that location on each page to relabel each of these pages. So now you see I can easily determine that this is page number 25 because it shows, or sheet number 25 of this set, because it has read that from the title block. And that's great now. So this is all set up. It makes it easier to navigate. Now, this is just a simple 17-page document. You oftentimes, many of you there, I'm sure, find yourself working with hundreds of documents that are hundreds of pages long. And you might also find that opening and navigating through those can be somewhat tedious, because when you click on one of these pages, it might take several seconds or even longer to load that page into the view. And so to deal with that, we have created something called sets. Sets was actually developed with the assistance of one of our DOT customers who was telling us that navigating through documents was just entirely too difficult. It was taking too much time to open and navigate. So sets was born from that partnership with them. What sets allows me to do is to extract this document into a single page, a folder of single page PDFs, and then navigate through them as if they were one multi-page document. So to do that, what I can do is right-click on one of these thumbnails. I'm just going to go through this quickly. I can extract these pages and say, let's extract these pages as separate files. I can then say, I'm going to uncheck Open Files After Extraction, and I'm going to hit OK. It's going to ask me where to save this. I should have created this folder ahead of time. Let's just say this is extracted pages. And we'll select that folder. And what Revu will do now is export each of these pages individually to that folder. So I'm going to go ahead and close this file. And now what I need to do is set up something called a set. So here in this interface of Revu, I have something called the Sets panel. So I'm going to create a new set from those documents. Whoop. What happened here? Oh, I did it again. Let me hang on a second here. What I need to do, actually, try that one more time. I extract these pages, and I do this every single time. I forget to set the page range to all pages. And there we go. We're going to go ahead and extract that. And that will extract all 17 pages as individual pages, as individual sheets. So now, from the Sets panel, when I create this new set, you'll see I have all those 17 pages available to me. Now, when I add these in here and hit OK, what Revu is going to do is allow me to view all 17 individual sheets, and it looks like I accidentally added the same sheet twice here, to this document. And it will let me, oh, that's interesting. I have grabbed the wrong folder, I believe. Basically what it is allowing me to do is to view all 17 pages as if they were part of a single multi-page document. And I don't know why the labels are interesting here. So as I click here through this, into each of these thumbnails, it's going to show me just that page. Now notice across the top here, it's not opening multiple documents. It's closing the original document and opening the next one. So this is going to allow me to navigate through my large document very quickly. It's going to open those pages much more quickly than if you had to load 500 pages or 1,000 pages into Revu at once. So as you're working through this then, if you need to switch to a different page, you just click on a different thumbnail here over in the Sets panel, and it will open that document very quickly. So the next step then, and let me, bear with me here a second, let me open up a different set. Let's close this. I'm going to create one more set using better files here. And this will allow me, here we go. So let me create one here. So we see here that, there we go. So I have set up these particular files. Notice now that the page labels are as we'd like them to be, 22, 23. It's also giving me additional information about the title of those sheets. I used AutoMark to create all that information. So as we're working through this document now, though, some time goes by on this project, and I'm provided with some revisions to these files. And I like to be able to add those to this set to make it easier to, I'd like to not only be able to see the most recent revisions, but I'd like to be able to see the previous revisions of each of these documents. Revu allows you to do that by adding these to the set, and it's going to ask me which of these pages the incoming revisions match up with, and it lets me adjust and realign items here if need be, but I'm going to hit OK. It looks like it did a good job here. And when I hit OK, Revu is going to pull in those new revisions of those documents. And as I scroll down through the Sets panel, you'll notice a little difference here. There's a little blue arrow next to the name of this particular file. So we'll click on that. I'm going to see that this is actually revision 1 of sheet number 25. But when I click the little blue arrow here, I can view the previous revision. And Revu also will allow you, it doesn't have to, you can turn this off, it will place a superseded stamp on the previous version of that document. So I can continue to add files to this set. You see, I might have an additional set of revisions. I can go ahead and add those. It will match them up again as long as the information is correct. And it will then stack that newest revision on top of the previous revision. So I can now cycle back through all 3 versions of this sheet number 25 and view all that information very easily. So this is a unique feature of Revu. So if any of your staff, if you're using this internally, they will want to have Revu installed. If you're wanting to share this with anybody outside the office, who perhaps isn't using Revu, they can also use our free viewer called View to get the same advantage, to be able to view documents in this way. All right, so let me go ahead and close out of this. Another feature that's very popular among many of our engineers at DOTs is the compared documents tool. So what I'm doing, I'm just showing some of the great features of Revu that allow for digital document control and use. At later date, I should have noticed at the beginning, at a later date, if there's anything in particular, if any of you there would like to know more about an entire workflow or specific features, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to set up a full demo of any of these features at any time. We also have training available and those sorts of things. So let's take a look at the compared documents feature. In Revu, on the document tab, we have a couple types of document comparison we can do. We're going to start with the compared documents tool, and we'll see that this is going to open up a dialog box in which I can open up. I need to select 2 documents. I'm going to click the little browse button to select my first document. And I'm going to do this with a couple of architectural documents first. Click Open. And then when I click the Revision 2, I'll see I've added, or Revision 1 here, I've added these 2 documents as Document A and Document B. Now down here at the bottom, there's an option that says, it's called Advanced. I'm going to open that real quickly just to show you some of the stuff we can do here. So when we compare documents, a review allows us to basically add clouds, or it will automatically add clouds to anything it detects as a change between the two documents. Within this interface, we can choose the color of that cloud and the fill color. I can also choose what exactly, which document this cloud will be added to. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and I'm also going to point something out in this screen. We have the option Split Screen View and Synchronize checked, and I'll show you in a moment what that is. So when I hit OK, Review is going to open up those two documents and compare them to one another, and then cloud any changes it found in one of those documents. So here I can see there's a cloud in the upper section of this building. And so it opened those two documents side by side, and it turned this option here called Sync on. So now as I zoom towards this part of the left drawing, it zooms to that same section on the right-hand drawing, and now I can see there were changes made to this document. I can detect what those changes are very quickly. Let me zoom back out again, and I'll see that it also detected there were some changes on the title block, and it even detected that there was a change to the revision, the plot stamp here over on the border. So it will detect very subtle changes. You do have the ability to adjust the sensitivity of that. Not only did it cloud those changes so I can see them graphically, Review also has something called the Markups List down here at the bottom of the screen. And when I open that, let me expand that out a little bit, I'll see that it's tracking each of those markups independently. So now I can select each one of those, and Review is going to show those to me. It's going to select them. Even if I'm not looking at that particular markup, when I select it in the Markups List, it will center it in my screen and show me what's going on there. So now I can record this. I can save this and send it to whoever I might need to show them what those differences are, or ask for more information here about that particular change. All right, so that is the Compared Documents tool in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer more questions. I'm trying to monitor here the questions panel in case there's anything I should address on the fly here. Randy, feel free to, if you want to interject here, if there's any questions you feel should be answered here as we're going through it, please feel free to jump in and let me know. One of the questions is this free? And I think that was talking about the review in general. The review, those features that you saw there in sets and review is purchased, but we do again have a free viewer called View. So any of you who have consultants, third-party consultants that maybe need to be able to view some of these documents, you can use View for that. Is the page number lookup tool able to handle alphanumeric series, for example, B1-1, B1-2, B2-1? And the answer is yes. So when we were using that automark feature to read the information here on a document, it does actually scan what's there and will just reproduce what it sees. So that will be numbers, symbols, and letters. Looks like there's a few other questions we'll have to probably answer offline. There's a couple that are probably more internal questions for others at FDOT. So I'm going to keep going here. The next thing we want to take a look at are some of the markup tools in Review. And then we're going to go on, we're going to talk about Studio. I got my list here a little bit out of order. But so back here in Review, I'm going to go ahead and close out of these documents. I should note here this document with these changes. I told Review to add these markups to a copy of the original the revised document. So if I want to, I can now save this file separate from the originals which I was provided. I'm going to go ahead and close this without saving changes. And I'm going to come back here to one of the civil drawings. So one of the main purposes, though, that people come to Review in the first place is that they want a better solution for marking up documents. Just adding notes, adding comments, adding images, all that kind of stuff. They would also like a better solution typically for tracking those markups then. They don't just want to draw information or draw callouts on there, draw notes, and then have to recreate those constantly every time that somebody makes a change. So we're going to use Review to manage all of that workflow. So let's take a first look at the markup tools. So here in the Markups tab up here at the top of the screen, I'll see there's a series of icons here that allow me to create text and call out. So I can create a text box here if need be. If if I want to add an additional note, this is a standard text box. We can also create callouts. This will allow me to add a callout here with text along with an integrated leader. We also have tools for doing freehand and highlight. Oftentimes you'll want to come through and highlight information in a document. So we'll see here there is a tool for highlighting text. You can select text and highlight it very quickly. There are also pen tools for doing quick freehand. If you want to draw around a section to create a quick note, that's really nice for if you're using a tablet as well. We have the ability to draw different sorts of lines, straight lines, and we can also draw different shapes. From here, this is probably the most commonly used one, called cloud. Cloud will then allow me to do just that. It'll let me either create a rectangular cloud very quickly by dragging and releasing, or I can select the cloud tool, and let's find another spot here. I can individually click the different points and draw the shape that I want around a portion of my document. So very quick to draw clouds, much quicker than some other PDF applications to do the same thing. Something else we introduced this year, 2015, was something called the Cloud Plus tool. This was actually created based on very popular feedback or requests from our users. Cloud Plus will allow me to not only draw a cloud, but then it will also attach a leader to it. So now I have a cloud with an integrated leader, and these will act as a single object. So you'll see as we move any portion of this entity, they both move together. So that can be very useful rather than having to create a cloud and then create a call out along with it. Something we introduced new this year as well is the ability to sketch to scale. I'm not going to go into this. If anybody's interested, I'd be happy to provide a separate demonstration on that. Sketch to scale, though, very quickly allows you to calibrate the scale of a drawing and then create objects to a known size, So it's a very rudimentary drafting tool, but it allows you to do some of that work within the PDF environment if you need to quickly add something like a job trailer or something like that. Revu also allows us to add images very quickly to a document. So when I click this image button, Revu is going to ask me to navigate to a folder in which I have other images saved. Perhaps I have, let's see, this was a image of a light pole that I'd like to specify for a particular document, or maybe that I've photographed on site. I can add that very quickly to the document just by hitting image and then grabbing these, dragging and releasing to place that image onto the document. Now, on occasion, though, what you might find is that you need to place many images on a document to represent what you've observed, and maybe on a job site or doing a survey of some type. Placing all those images onto the document itself can be difficult because, as you can see, it's covering up a lot of the information on the document. So instead, what we can do is take advantage of Revu's feature called Capture. And to do that, I'm going to click this particular cloud. I'm going to right-click and choose this option called Capture and choose then from File. And this will let me pick multiple images if I'd like to. And what this does is place them into what's called a capture gallery. Notice this little icon down here in the lower right corner of this markup. When I select that, it's going to open up this gallery and allow me to cycle through all of the images which I've embedded inside of that markup. Now I can just click outside of it and it will close that gallery. So what this allows for is both adding images that you've taken previously and maybe saved on a network drive. If you're using our iPad app in the field or a tablet, you can actually take photos directly from the camera and embed them right into that markup. So that's very handy for grabbing large amounts of observation photos and placing them in the correct location rather than having to correlate them by number or what have you. So then you can also create hyperlinks and add attachments. You can attach other file types here. What I'm going to show you, though, real quickly is another great feature which will probably be of interest to very many of you is the Stamps tool. Many of you will likely have to stamp your drawings throughout the process of review. And what you can do is create stamps here and load them into Revu and make them accessible from the stamps dropdown. So a quick example might be if you need to add a professional seal here, I can do that. I can create a vector stamp and just place it very quickly onto the document. I also have created myself a signature, a vector image of my signature. So now I can place that directly over this stamp. Maybe you have a form you need to fill out and you'd like to stamp it. We refer to this type of signature as a electronic, sort of little e electronic signature. So this doesn't have any necessarily control over the document. It just allows, kind of shows that you have observed or you have viewed this document and you'd like to place your signature on it. You can also create Java-enabled stamps, JavaScript-enabled stamps, which will request certain kinds of information when you place them that will allow you to stamp the document, maybe add some additional information. And when we hit OK, see, we'll stamp that onto this document. So stamps are a very powerful tool in Revu. And again, we have a lot of great information, a lot of documentation on creating stamps. I'd be happy to provide any information to any of you who might need more information there. A couple questions that came up. I'm trying to keep up with these. How did you do the Cloud Plus was one of the questions. So again, the Cloud Plus is found on the Markup tab here at the top under the Shapes dropdown, and you'll find Cloud Plus here as the last option. You can also use the keyboard shortcut K. K is the keyboard shortcut for that particular tool. You'll notice a lot of the features do have keyboard shortcuts. For those of you who like to keyboard your commands, you can do that with many of the commands in Revu. Another question, where is the capture photo gallery stored in the file structure? That's a great question. So these images, which are embedded in a capture, are actually embedded in the PDF itself as an attachment. So if you needed to transmit this PDF to one of your colleagues, the images would automatically go along with that PDF. They are not referenced into the document. They are embedded in the document itself. Now, many of you probably have the first concern of about file size, and it is true. If you embed a lot of images into your PDF, the file size can grow very large. You do have the ability to tell Revu when an image is attached to sample it down to a smaller file size or a lower resolution so that you don't end up bloating the entire document, making it too hard to transmit. Somebody pointed out they said they don't have Cloud Plus available to them, and they must be looking in Revu right now. Revu 20, we did introduce Cloud Plus in Revu 2015, so that is this year's release. That was introduced in February of this year. So if you want to, everybody is following along, you can click the Help tab and then click the About button, and you can view here really quickly which version you're currently running. We're actually up to 2015.5 now, so we do release minor updates to Revu throughout the year. 0.5 came out last week. A couple other questions here. Is there or can there be an option to store pictures in another directory rather than in the file or as a reduced image? Revu actually, when you place images, wants to embed them. What you can do is create hyperlinks to those images, but if you need to view that image in the PDF, either as an image or as a capture, an image in a capture gallery, it will be embedded in the PDF itself, so it will be self-contained. At this time, we don't have the ability to reference those images in on demand or during viewing while the file is open. As I've been creating markups now in this document, Revu has been tracking all of this information. So I can see here, actually let me take a step back. So I've been adding these markups here, and you'll notice that everything is coming in with default kind of red color. And that's fine, but oftentimes that makes it very difficult to differentiate between different users. Many of you probably have already established that certain users get certain colors assigned to them. So in order to make those changes in Revu, we can add these, after we've added these markups, we can come over here to the right-hand panel and click on this blue gear, which opens the Properties panel. We'll see very quickly now I can change things like the color of this particular markup. I can change it to green. I can also add a fill color, perhaps. I'm going to click the little fill color and say, let's switch that to orange. Now, that makes it very difficult to see what's underneath in the PDF, so I can now either bump the fill opacity down a little bit, or I can click the highlight button, and that will allow for those the PDF content to show through here. Oftentimes you'll find that you're creating the same markup repeatedly though. So as I work in this document, I might need to create a lot of green clouds with orange fill. And if I just go click the cloud button again here from the markup tab, you see it's just going to place it again as red as the default. So what we can do to make it easier to recreate these markups is to add these to what's called the tool chest. The tool chest is going to be found, I'm going to click this orange drop down and choose the tool chest option here. It's going to be found here on the left hand side of the screen. Now as I've been working in this document, Revu has been tracking all the markups I've been creating here under the recent tools heading. So if I really want to quickly recreate another green cloud, I can select it here and go in and draw this cloud. And you see it will use those same properties. It'll create a green cloud with orange fill. But if I close Revu and come back tomorrow, my recent tools will have been cleared out. So what I can do is create a custom tool set. I've already created a few here for various disciplines, but I can also create these on the fly. So maybe what I want to do is select this green cloud and right click on it, and I can choose add to tool chest. I can either select add to my tools, or I'm going to add it to one of these others here. I'm going to add it to engineer Revu. Now notice when I did that, it creates a new cloud tool here under the engineer Revu tool set. And when I select that, by default it wants to create an exact duplicate of that cloud. However, I might like to just recreate new clouds from scratch. So what I can do here is double click on this tool, and it will switch to what's called properties mode. Now I can go recreate a new cloud using those same properties but with a different shape. Now these tool sets can have many, many tools listed or saved in here. And what's great is that these can then be exported. You can now standardize all of the markup tools which you would like your department to use, and then share them with the rest of the department or deploy them to your colleagues so that they have the exact same set of tools which you have created for them or you have been using. If any of your consultants are also using Revu, you can also export pre-formatted tools for their use so that when they create markups in a document, they will be conforming to any of the properties that you would like them to be using. And that's very quickly, that's just the tool sets. I'm happy to answer any questions about that, but in a nutshell, that's the markup tools and tool sets. Now, I mentioned earlier, as you're placing markups in your document, Revu is then going to be tracking all of this information. So rather than having to open up this file and go through and visually search for every single one of these markups that I've created, what I can do is come down here to the bottom of the screen and open up what's called the Markups List. So when I click this blue half circle down here, let me close the properties, I'm going to see then a list of all those markups. Notice here, I can view every one of these clouds. I can view the individual images, the pen tools, everything that I've placed in here. And then I can sort through this information. So if I click on any one of these headings, I'm going to be able to sort by subject. I can sort by the page on which those are located, and I can sort by comment. Now, what I didn't show you earlier is that we can adjust the names of these various, the subject of these various markups, either by double-clicking here in the Markups list, or I can change them from the Properties panel, which we viewed earlier as well. So by default, Revu is going to add these tools called Cloud, but if I want to change these to Demolition, I can actually rename these. And I should have noted earlier, I can also save that information when I add this to the tool set. Let's make sure we get these the same. So now you notice, because I'm sorting by subject, it's going to group these particular markups together under the subject demo. I can also filter this. So maybe we've got a lot of different kinds of markups of different subjects, and I would like to go through and only view the markups which have been set to subject demo. I can click the filter button here, and there's a little blue arrow hiding under here, which allows me to select just the demo markups, and now I can view that these two particular markups were set for demolition. It grays out all the other markups so I can still see them, but it makes it easier to spot the demolition markups. Now we can also go through and track information here. So if I have added, or somebody has added in this demolished or this demo note, and I, as the reviewer, want to then determine or designate this as an accepted note, I can now do that from this status column. I'm using these default statuses, but notice here what happened when I switched to accepted. It tracked who said it, M. Calkins, and when and what time I said it, what date and time I actually added that. So now I have designated this markup as accepted, and if somebody else were to open this file and then go through and mark it as completed, it would then track that. So there's full tracking ability and accountability for these markups now. Instead of having to go through and highlight it with a different color as well, I can now just change these statuses and track that information. You can also create what are called custom statuses, which would allow you to change the color of the markup automatically when you change it from accepted to completed, or whatever the various steps along that process might be that you use internally. Now, as you're going through the document, you might find that at any given time you have a lot of documents or a lot of markups which have been completed and a lot that have not yet been completed, and you'd like to be able to view that information very quickly or report on that. In Review, from the Markups list, we do have the ability to create summaries. So when I click the Summary drop-down, I can create a CSV summary, basically Excel. I'm going to create a PDF summary real quick because it runs a little bit faster. And now I can show here, I'm going to go ahead and append this to the current document, create some hyperlinks, and include, I'm going to exclude the filtered markups here at the top. So I'm going to hit OK real quick. And Review is going to create a summary of those markups. So I only had two that were currently shown, but I can see now that here's the first markup, subject was demo, and the status is set to completed. The last status that was changed was completed. Now I can come down here and say, well, I have a couple. This status has not yet been changed, so maybe it currently it still needs to be addressed. But I can't quite tell what that markup is, so now what I can do is just click on it here in the thumbnail, and it's going to open up that particular file and show me that markup in the drawing itself. So now we can save that document, and these statuses are all tracked. I should point out we can also filter. If we wanted to, we can filter by status. So rather what I prefer to do is say, let's just show the completed markups, or let's say custom filter status does not equal completed, and it will show me any of those other markups which have yet to be picked up, approved, whatever it might be. Okay. So that is the basics of markups. If there's any questions, please do feel free to be typing those as they come up into the questions panel. My colleague James is monitoring the panel there and can type answers. I'll try and answer them as we keep going through here. So that is the basics of what we want to talk about today, the dynamic file setup. So again, using that sets feature, compare documents in the markup tools. Now I wanted to jump back up here though, so that I can show you our real-time collaboration through what's called Studio. The Studio panel in Review, again, let me talk a little bit about Studio itself. So Studio is included for free with every licensed copy of Review. So any of you who have Review on your computer right now can take advantage of the feature that I'm about to show you here. Studio is broken into two parts. One part is called Sessions, the other is called Projects. We're going to be focusing on Sessions today, which is our collaboration feature. To access Studio, I'm going to come up here to the markups, to the control bar, and click Studio. And that's going to open up this panel here on the right-hand side. I do need to log in. You do need to create a username and password. And when I log in, I'm going to get visibility of various features here. I'm going to see sessions which I have created. I can view also if I've joined other people's sessions or been invited to other sessions, I'll be able to see those listed here. And I can view any of the projects which I've created or attended. I'm going to go ahead and jump into this project or this session here called Memorial Bridge. And when I just click on that, we're going to see Review does a little bit of thinking. Let me close this file so we can see what's going on. When I open up this Memorial Bridge session, I'm going to see here in this Documents panel the two documents which have been loaded into this session. So I'm going to click this one called Civil Plans. You see it opens up. It's that same set of documents we were viewing, but this document is saved on the cloud. You can also see that I have other attendees which I have invited to join in this session. So we'll see here in a second, James will join me in the session, and I'll see his name light up. So now what I can do as I'm working this document or viewing this document from the cloud, I can go through and begin to create markups. So maybe I wanted to create one of those green clouds with the orange fill that I created earlier. When I add this now to the drawing, notice what's happening. Revu is going to track that information here in the record. It says Michael Calkins added a cloud. So as I pan around, I can click on that line item in this record, and it's going to show me that cloud. And I can then go back through the entire list, and I'll see that my one of my colleagues, let's find one here, that isn't me, added some other markups. My colleague Nick, who was reviewing this document, added a cloud. So I can select that line item, and it's going to show me that markup here in the drawing. I see change culvert to 2 foot by 4 foot. So it's going to select that and let me see the changes that have been added or the work that's been done by my colleagues. I can also track when colleagues have attendees have joined and left the session. I can see now that James has actually joined the session. I can also see now his name is highlighted or is lit up here in the attendee list, but these others are not yet are not currently viewing this document. You can have up to 500 attendees in the session at once. I can also choose to follow other attendees. So James is currently in this session. I can click this little footprint icon beside his name, and when I select that, I will then be able to view his cursor on screen. So what you're seeing right now is James. James happens to be in New Hampshire at this very moment. I am in Chicago, but I'm viewing his cursor as he is going through the document and adding his comments. We could be on a conference call together or just speaking to one another, and he could be telling me what it is he would like to be doing, or like me to do, and he can then add those comments directly to the file. If I wasn't in the session at this time, James can also send me notifications. Notice he sent me a little notification a little while ago, and I can also select that, and it will then show me very quickly the markup that he added to the document. So if I notice that James, or maybe I want to inform Angela here that I've added a markup to my file, and I would like her to review that markup, I can right-click on that markup, choose the alert attendee option, and then I'll be able to select from a list of all of the attendees who have been part of the session. Not only will they get a notification in the studio panel, they will receive an email that tells them that I have made this markup and I would like them to review that markup. So it's a great feature for communication. So you can, that allows you to create markups and communicate and collaborate in real time or on your own time when you are able to view that session. Let me switch back here to the record. So as you're working in this document or working in this session can be allowed to be open indefinitely. But you might say, I'm going to leave this open for a couple weeks, but at the 1 week point, you would like to be able to view all of the markups, all the work that's been going on. You'd like to be able to basically view this record in a format that lets you read it more clearly. So as the session creator, I can create what's called a report here. I can click this little icon, and Revu is going to allow me to create various kinds of report. I'm going to create a PDF package report. I can add a new name here, maybe the date, whatever it might be. And when I hit OK, it's going to ask me to save this document. Hit save here. It's going to do a little bit of thinking, and it's going to pop open in a moment what is called a PDF package. So this is kind of like a zip file, but it's going to grab all the information, all the different file types, and it's going to create a report of this record list. So we see here a folder that has the 2 files which are part of the session, and it also shows me this report. So I'm going to open that report, and I'll see now a list of the attendees who are part of this session. I can see, of course, the date on which it was created, the documents which are part of that session, and now I can scroll through the entire record. So what's great is that it's going to let me see every one of these markups, the time and date it was created, and the drawing on which it was created. Now what I can do is click on this. I see James Chambers added a cloud, line item 37. And when I select that icon, it is going to open up that document, and looks like James might have then later deleted that particular markup. Let's go down here to this very last one. I know these are in the drawing still. So I'll see James added a cloud. When I select that from the list, it's going to show me the cloud which he added in that file. It shows that to me in context. It will also have tracked all of those markups down here in the Markups list. So again, I can go through and view all of this information, and I can view who created these markups. I can select them from the list and show it in the drawing. And even better, we can now track statuses. In the session itself, you can adjust statuses here. So now I can see that this particular cloud was accepted by James, even though I was the one that created it, but James was the approver. He said this document, this cloud is accepted. Go ahead and change this portion of the drawing in the file itself, and then I can come back later and say this has been completed, and it will track that here. In this case, this is on the local file that I've saved locally, but I can also do that, change those statuses here in the session as well. So that would allow everybody to, all these attendees, to view the status of these markups as we are working on this project in real time. A couple questions that have come up. How can I make a PDF open to the first page, not when left off? Well, maybe we'll come back to that here in a second. How does the Studio Cloud work with ProjectWise DMS? So great question. So let me jump back to a previous slide here. It's a little bit difficult to see in this particular slide, but there's a couple, there is a workflow, and I'd be happy to provide this. I'll put my contact information up. I have a great how-to for pulling documents from your ProjectWise DMS and pushing them to a session. But if you're using the ProjectWise Explorer, right here there's an option. You can right-click on a document which is saved in the DMS and start a new Studio session. So if you have Studio Bluebeam Revu installed on your computer, it will integrate with ProjectWise and allow you to push a document directly from ProjectWise to a session. You can then, when you close the session, so let me jump back to review. When I'm done with this session, I can click the Finish button if I'm the one who created the session, and that will allow me to pull these documents down from the cloud, essentially. And what it will allow me to do is to save the file and overwrite the existing, or save it into a separate folder. If this file needs to go right back in as a new revision of the original document in the DMS, I can choose Save and Overwrite Existing, and it will check that file. It will actually open it locally and allow me to manually check it back into the DMS. Again, I grab a good how-to step-by-step for setting that up and for round-tripping those documents from the DMS to sessions and back. And Chad, I'd be happy to work with you offline as well if you have some more questions, or if you'd like to go through that. I'll put my information up so you can contact me directly here in a little bit. So just real quickly here, I should point out, I'm happy to answer more questions. Feel free to continue to type those into the questions box. I'll get to those here at the end. We did have one more question. How can I make PDF open to the first page and not where I left off? That is a common question. I have not found a way to force Revu to always open to the first page. Typically what happens when you're working Revu is that if I were to close the document and save it from page 2, it will then reopen in page 2. Let me, Matt, let me look into that a little bit more, see if I can find, perhaps that's a feature we've updated recently or added an option for that. My colleague James might have a way of doing that too. He can, we'll see if he has a way of doing that. Any other questions, again, feel free to type those in. I did want to take a look at a couple things. So just show a little bit more information here about a particular project that one of our collaborators. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Revu or maybe haven't had a chance to use it in our project, we do have some great information on our website for, we have a lot of case studies located at bluebeam.com. One of those is about the Kansas City streetcar project, which is completed by Burns & McDonnell. It's actually currently, I believe, in the final stages. Basically, it was a 2-mile, $100 million downtown rail line renovation. So it was among the largest underground utilities relocations ever in Kansas City. and involved a very large number of project partners. So all the different utilities involved, a lot of stakeholders involved. They decided to employ Bluebeam Revu as their primary markup solution and using Studio as their primary collaboration tool. So what they would do is upload documents to the sessions and then allow all of the various entities and stakeholders to join those various sessions and make their markups as they were reviewing the drawings. They also employed the Revu iPad app in the field for taking those documents mobile. Rather than having to print and then carry large sets of documents, they were able to get very quick access to those documents on their iPad. For any of those stakeholders or any of those project team members who weren't using Revu, they were able to download our free viewer called View to take advantage of being able to view those markups. The View option, the View tool won't let you create markups on locally saved documents, but what's great is that View will allow you to join those studio sessions, which we just learned about, and then also create markups in those sessions. So the studio sessions became very important so that everybody had a common tool with which they could create markups and they could communicate. They also created, remember earlier I mentioned that you can create custom tools and tool sets and then export those. They were able to create a set of custom tools and then export those out and share them with all of the various team members so Burns & McDonnell could control the color and properties of the markups that each of those team members was creating, so they could quickly view those and differentiate those. So here's actually an example, a screenshot of one of their studio sessions. So you can see in here, they had a long list of attendees. Again, there can be up to 500 attendees in any given session. So all of these different stakeholders were given access to the session. They were provided with specific sets of tools. So one particular team member would create red text with a yellow highlight or yellow background. Maybe a particular font was assigned to them. And then other attendees had their own unique color identifiers. So again, everybody could view the information in real time. And notice here there's a lot of callouts relating to the same section of the drawing. Obviously, many of the team members had concerns with this particular corner condition. So they are all making markups, and they can view those markups very quickly in real time, essentially, as they're being added. So the results on this project, from what we've been reported, is that it saved at least 2 weeks over the 8-month project period, or 8 months of the project, more than 5,500 digital comments and 68 users. So they were able to track 68 individual users and 5,500 individual comments created by those users. The rework was completed with, the relocation was completed with 0 rework and delays. Many of the project partners actually adopted Revu themselves, and this is very common. We find that when government agencies begin using Revu, and especially studio sessions, that any of their stakeholders, any of their team, their consultants, or anyone else who's participating in a project with them will see Revu in action, will very frequently decide to reuse Revu themselves. Let me just real quickly, in the last few minutes we have here, let's check the time. We are down to the hour here. There were a few questions that have come up. See, can you go over attachments with and without the icon? What is the difference? And can you add the icon later if you add without first? So basically the question is, I probably don't have time now to go in depth into the attachments feature, but Revu does allow you to add attachments to your document, both images and other file types. So if you wanted to embed an Excel file, another PDF, another image, even you could even embed a MicroStation file if you wanted to. So when you do that, Revu adds an icon on the screen. So actually, I'd be happy to answer that question. Let me put up real quickly again my contact information so that you have that. So everybody, please feel free to jot this down. You can reach out to me directly. I'm happy to answer any of those questions. But for the sake of time, what I'll do is I'll grab these questions here, and I'll probably reach out to you individually, or you can feel free to email me. Just because we're running out of time here, I don't want to keep it anybody longer than they have time for. But again, let me just say thank you real quick for inviting me. Thank you to everybody who invited me to give a presentation today. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. You can feel free to funnel those also through any of your contacts there at Florida DOT who have a direct line to me. You can also follow us, connect with us online at bluebeam.com, and we have lots of great resources there, so be sure to check that out. Thanks again, and hopefully we'll get a chance to speak again soon.
Thank you, Michael. That was a lot of useful information for the FDOT family and district users. And as he said, he'll get with the answers to the remaining questions. And that concludes this webinar. Thank you for attending.